What up, people? You are live and direct on Petty Sportz, the podcast, brought to you by KINGZ Broadcasting Studios. It's your boy, the host, Famous Fees. They call me Facts. Y'all see we riding solo today on the Christmas edition with the dope little Christmas hat. Share picking this thing up. You see the Famous Fees right on the front. Says, we come bearing gifts and all that good stuff. So, before I give y'all the off the top and get everything popping, let you know what's on the docket for the night. You always know I'm going to talk about NFL every single week because NFL is on and popping and that's what's happening. But we got a crazy slate of NBA games for Christmas Day on Saturday. So, it would be crazy if I didn't talk about that. We had a couple of fights, some off-brand, very entertaining fights. So I got to chop it up with you about that. And I got a little something else to drop on you about that NIL, college football, transfer portal. So, it's going to be a hot show. Make sure y'all keep this thing locked. If you got a little something you want to drop in, holla at me on the Petty line. It's 678-871-9602. That's how we do it. You know what you wanted to, you got something you want to debate with me? Holla at me. Man, we're going to start with the off the top. It's not going to be a topic. It's Christmas, and I just had to say Merry Christmas to the homies, Mike Bell and G King. Y'all come on up to the platform for me one time. We're going to give them their own round of applause, even though he ain't hit the sound of the button. So, these boys, they won a World Series. We had to drop something on them. Got them the hoodies with the old school logo. The one that they like. I got hoodies in the bag. For sure. Most definitely. Yes, sir. Now, when Adam make it in, he got him a Saints hoodie, too. Everybody got goodies for Christmas. That's what it is. They got me looking like I'm a Saints fan. Not my team. This one is for Adam. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can't start the Christmas Day edition off without giving gifts. We got to come bearing gifts. I brought my own gifts. It looks like a Jameson Black Barrel bottle. That's what I can get me something, too. So cheers to everyone. That's how we going to do it. So, man, we'll get this thing kicked right on off with the games of the week. But I got to get my Lee Corso on for you right quick. So now that it's time for football, I got to switch to football. I got hats today. Back to the Pats. I know y'all sitting up acting like y'all thought I wasn't going to talk about the Patriots because we lost the game. Absolutely not. But that's not the first game on the docket. We got to start off with this Thursday night football game. Y'all saw it. Kansas City, Los Angeles Chargers played in L.A. Game was off the chain. That was probably one of the best Thursday night games we've had this season. It's officially a rivalry. Now they've split games. 6 points separated them in each game. Game was crazy. The Chiefs now secured their 7th straight victory, overcoming the Chargers in overtime. So, it's like now we got Pat Mahomes. He's finally looking like the $500 million man in prime time. And everybody's very high on the Kansas City Chiefs because they're looking like they're poised to go back to the Super Bowl for a 3rd straight time. And if they're able to win it, they'd absolutely be considered a dynasty. Well, they'd be right on the cusp. So that would be 2 and 3 years. The dynasty standard, I gave that to y'all a while back. You got to win 3 and 4. If you don't get at least 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, you're not a dynasty. But they would be right on their way if they're able to do it. And the last time we saw a team win 2 and 3 was not too long ago. The Pats won in 2016, went back in 2017 and lost, and then they won in 2018. We've seen this very recently. But let's look at what happened in that game. In Kansas City, the offense finally looked like the Kansas City offense. And I say finally because the 2 Raider games, come on, it's a division game, and they just destroyed the Raiders. They treat them like they're the Jets. It's pretty bad. Pat Mahomes went for 410 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did throw another pick. He has been doing that this year. But I mean, Justin Herbert had a really good game, and the Chargers easily could have won that game. I mean, Herbert went for 236, 2 touchdowns and a pick. But let's just go back into the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs started the season 3-4. Everybody was like, oh, my God, what happened? It had nothing to do with injuries. Pat Mahomes was turning the ball over. The Chiefs were turning the ball over. They were giving up points. And then they turned it around, seemingly. They beat the Giants by 3 points. Nobody really cared. Then they beat Green Bay by 6 without Aaron Rodgers. Like, no A-Rod, only 6 points. Yeah, they probably would have beat you. Then you blew out the Raiders, and the offense came alive, and people were like, oh, okay, they righted the ship. That's what it is. Then you beat Dallas and Denver in 2 defensive games where the offense really did not much of anything. It was just straight up the defense smothered them, and they stumbled their way into wins because in those games, Pat Mahomes didn't even throw touchdowns. I mean, you would think that that's never going to be a formula for the Kansas City Chiefs to win football games. Then they took out the Chargers in this overtime win, and now they sit at 10-4 at the top of the AFC. So, I mean, no one can argue that they deserve to be at the top of the AFC and the favorites to go to the Super Bowl. But let's just look at what they've been doing. In the last 2 games, they scored 82 points. So that's very Kansas City-like. Mahomes has thrown for 668 yards and 5 touchdowns in those 2 games. But during the 7-game win streak, it ain't really been like that. So, I mean, if you really dig into what's actually been happening, I mean, Pat Mahomes over the 7 games has thrown 12 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. But we have to actually, if you remove the 2 Raider games, because I'm going to tell you what he did in those games, 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in the Raider games. So that means in those other 5 games, he threw 5 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. I mean, that is far less than stellar, especially on the $500 million Pat Mahomes train. That's unacceptable. I mean, there are plenty of lower rate quarterbacks that can put up 5 touchdowns and 3 interceptions in 5 games. So, I mean, before you just completely anoint the Kansas City Chiefs, you've got to take a step back and understand that they will not be playing the Raiders in the playoffs. You're going to play better football teams. And to this point, what they're doing, like, man, they still got to pick it up. I'm not all the way convinced. I see my people going off in here in the chat. Wesley talking about where the Titans gear at. Like, it's at your house. I'm not wearing the Titans gear. I don't know what you're talking about. Got Jamila in the house. What's popping? Scotty King. I don't know what he's asking me. He said, Coach Fro. I don't know. That's not me. But it's all good, though. So we'll move on to this game, the one that y'all want to hear about. You see it on the hat. Y'all watched it Saturday night. The Indianapolis Colts beat the New England Patriots 27-17 on Saturday. And it was quite a disturbing game, especially if you're a Patriots fan like myself. I mean, you looked at the game. The Colts went up 20-0 through 3 quarters. Everything New England did went wrong. You had 2 interceptions out of Mac Jones, had a block punt that was recovered for a touchdown. And, I mean, the defense didn't really play bad. I mean, their 7 points came off the block punt. The defense wasn't on the field. But so to that point, the defense had given up 13. Wasn't really a bad showing. Offense did nothing. I mean, Carson Wentz threw for 57 yards and a touchdown and 1 interception. And then the fourth quarter happened. The New England steamrolled back. Mac Jones finished the game with 299 yards and 2 touchdowns, but 167 of those yards and 2 touchdowns came in the fourth quarter. I mean, they steamrolled all the way back to 20-17, decided not to go for the onside kick, stopped them on first and second down. So now we're looking at a 3rd and long. More than likely, you're going to stop them, have them kick the ball to you. You have about a minute left in the game to either try to drive the length of the field and get a field goal to tie it, to go to overtime, or possibly score a touchdown to win the game. And then the Colts ran the ball to Jonathan Taylor. He went to the left side of the line. Dante Hightower and Devin McCourty were both in the hole. Jonathan Taylor made one cut. Neither one of them touched him. Cut back to the right, went straight down the field, and then J.C. Jackson couldn't touch him. I mean, that was very reminiscent of all of those videos that y'all have seen where it's just like, oh, man, you know, he was the better athlete. I pissed down my leg. I couldn't catch him. And then that was the ball game. So, I mean, outside of that one play, that completely changed the complexion of how you're even looking at what happened in that game. Because, I mean, New England played 3 terrible quarters of football. Played very similar to the Baltimore Ravens because, you know, that's what they do. They played terrible first halves, terrible third quarters, and then they try to pick it up at the end of the game and come back and take it from you. And more times than none, that does not work. That's not how you win football games. You can be bad teams that way, but the Colts have showed they've got such a running game, you're not going to be able to do that, even though they got very close to doing it. So Jonathan Taylor hit him for 29 carries, 170 yards, and 1 touchdown. 70 yards and 1 touchdown came from one play. So, I mean, if you're looking at 28 carries for 100 yards, he didn't really eat them alive. I mean, considering he is the entire offense, that's not a bad showing on defense to hold him to that. I mean, the bigger question is New England going to be able to button it up? I mean, in a 7-game win streak, they have not lost a game in 2 months. So, I mean, after one L, what we're not going to do is sit and act like the sky is falling. They were long overdue for a loss. No one expected New England to be as good as what they are this season. And after a 7-game win streak, one bad day at the park, they'll be fine next week. As far as the Indianapolis Colts, I mean, they really look like they're poised to push for the playoffs, and it's all going to be behind Jonathan Taylor. Second-year running back, I mean, I have no idea how the man went in the second round. I mean, I thought he was the best running back in the draft the year he came out, and he's now showing it to absolutely be true, leading the league in rushing. I mean, Jonathan Taylor is definitely somebody to keep a watch on. Derrick Henry's on his shade. You said Derrick Henry's on Twitter throwing shade to Taylor, saying, rest in peace, 28. I don't even know what he's talking about. Derrick Henry is hurt. He may be back for the end of the season. He's not going to be the same Derrick Henry. And, I mean, he was just getting a crazy amount of usage. Just like what Derrick Henry was, Jonathan Taylor is now leading the league in carries and yards and touchdowns. So, I mean, that'll be a battle of 2 guys who are heavily used, and we'll see how that works out in the playoffs. But at this point, I mean, it's looking good for him. I mean, the Colts got the Cardinals this week. So I'll get into that game a little later on in the segments. But now we got to move on to another team that I did just mention. Green Bay. They became the first team in the NFL this season to clinch a playoff berth in a game that they very easily could have lost. They controlled it, but they could have lost it. And it was all courtesy of Jim Harbaugh's reluctancy to kick an extra point. What the hell is wrong with Jim Harbaugh? Why is he doing this week in and week out? I mean, it's not like Aaron Rodgers just blazed him. He had 268 yards and 3 touchdowns. And I mean, I'm not going to act like that's just a walk in the park. He did have a very good game, but those numbers don't just jump off the page. I mean, if you look at his counterpart, Tyler Huntley, like, who is that? That's like little Shadow Lamar Jr., He threw for 215 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he ran for another 73 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game. But the bigger issue is Baltimore's play calling, the decision-making. And we're going to put all of that on Harbaugh. I mean, we've seen the mic'd up versions of what happened. Harbaugh likes to ask the quarterback what they want to do. He asked Huntley what he wanted to do the same way he asked Lamar what they want to do. I mean, what NFL quarterback is going to tell you they don't want to go for it? They want to go for it every single time. But just look at how this whole thing unfolded. Baltimore came out. They started the game, drove the length of the field, made it to the 2-yard line, got stopped 3 times from the 2, decided to go for it on 4th and goal, got stopped, ran a little rollout pass to the right, couldn't make it. So now it's still 0-0. You stop Green Bay, get the ball right back, drove the length of the field, and scored. Could have been up 10-0, but no, only up 7-0 because you're opposed to kicking field goals when you feel like you're a little bit too close. Whether that had been Lamar or Huntley, the way that play was defended, they weren't going to score on it, regardless of who he called it for. So, I mean, you go into the half tied at 14, where you left these points on the board. Then you come right back out in the third quarter. Well, actually, no, this was in the fourth quarter. 4th and 5 from your own 28-yard line. And you went for it. What the hell are you thinking? It's 28-17 with 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter. You're down by 11 points. This is not desperation time for you to be like, we got to go for it on 4th and 5 and damn near risk leaving them in the red zone with the ball as if they don't have Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams out there. It's like how I would love to see what went into the decision to make you feel like it was okay to go for it on 4th and 5 from your own 28-yard line down by 11. And even after you did that, you still held them to 3. So, I mean, the defense stepped up despite the blunders of your play calling. Then you finally steamroll back. You get down 31-30 right at the end of the game. Scored a touchdown. All you got to do is kick the extra point, tie it up, go into overtime. I don't want to hear the same excuse you gave last time to say that, oh, we went for it because the corners were out. Your defense was playing very good football, especially considering the disgusting positions that you kept putting them in. And what do? Not only do you go for it, you call the same raggedy play that they stopped in the first quarter. Did you not understand the first 2 times you ran it and got stopped that they flushed this out? They know that play. They saw the set. You ran the same rollout to the right, and you got the same result. There was no lanes to run in. Andrews was not open. Ball game because you refused to kick. And then I know Andrews came to the sideline. He tapped Harbaugh on the shoulder, was like, hey, that was a good call. That was the right call. It's like, no, bro. He's supposed to be coaching. You guys are out there to be the gladiator warriors. You got to have somebody out there that has enough common sense to be like, this is not the time. We can't afford to do that. It's ridiculous. Oh, apparently I called out the wrong Harbaugh brother. My bad. Y'all know y'all are going to make sure that y'all catch me on anything. But at any rate, y'all do know who I'm talking about. The other one has a game in about a week or so. And he's going to beat the Georgia Bulldogs. But that's not even on the docket for tonight. But y'all asked for that, especially Georgia fan correcting me on the Harbaugh. You got Harbaugh on the brain. That's why you know. It's all good, though. So, man, just wrapping up this whole Green Bay-Baltimore game. Green Bay now sits solely atop the NFC at 11-3 after Baltimore gave away 7 points. And I know gave away 7 points normally sounds like, oh, okay, they could have scored a touchdown, but no. You didn't kick the field goal in the first quarter. You didn't kick the extra point, and then you didn't kick another field goal. It's like, bro, what's wrong with them? You lose a game by 1 where you left 7 points on the field where they're like 7 gimme points. Like the field goals were closer than extra points would be. Those were where the old extra points were from. I mean, somebody needs to talk to this guy. Say he had a man in the back of the end zone open. I mean, he didn't have pressure, but the design of that play call, he was only looking for one guy. And we are talking about Tyler Huntley here. We're not talking about Lamar. We're not expecting him to see the entire field, go through all his progressions, and make a play like that in prime time at the end of the game against Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay with all the money on the line. not going to blame this game on Huntley. That's not even fair to do. This is solely Harbaugh's fault for the terrible play calling. And, I mean, as a result of it, I mean, we're looking at Baltimore. The way they're reeling, they might not win the division. And if they get kicked out of the division lead, it's possible that they won't even make the playoffs. I mean, how big a fail would that be? The Baltimore Ravens go from being a perennial Super Bowl pick, absolute shoe-in for the playoffs, generally in the 1 or 2 spot for the AFC, to not making the playoffs. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals knocked them out of the playoffs. Somebody's head's got to roll. And we can't blame this on Lamar and say that, oh, it's because he doesn't pass the ball enough. Clearly, there's an issue in the offensive room when they start scheming and they call plays. Because somebody is missing it. When you get out there and you just assume, okay, I can just go for it every single time. I'm going to run this. This is going to work. It's like, bro, if you miss the playoffs, Harbaugh's got to be on the hot seat for next season. I mean, he's not going to get fired. That would be ridiculous if they did that in one season just for one bad year. But he's got to be under the microscope. If he's not on the hot seat, then there's a problem. Like, I guess Baltimore is just they're content with being good, but not there. I mean, you did win a Super Bowl back in 2012 with Flacco. I mean, it was mostly about the defense, but y'all have won fairly recently. Your fan base ain't going to stand for that. I mean, you're supposed to play tough, hard-nosed football, but at the end of the day, the coach is supposed to be the guy to make the actual, just the smart plays. I mean, it's not so often that we sit here and just be like, man, they was just straight up dumb. Y'all gave the game away. And y'all are making it look like, well, it was Green Bay. No. It was just stupid. And yep, to Armand, Huntley did damn near play a perfect game. I mean, for a backup that pretty much no one heard of, just walked in, ran the exact same offense as Lamar, and ran it to Lamar specs. He got the rushing yards, the passing yards, the touchdowns, and everything to go with it. First player in NFL history to throw for 2 touchdowns and run for 2 touchdowns in a single game. Even Lamar hasn't done that. So we absolutely can't blame this on him. I mean, if nothing else, Huntley is auditioning for his next job. I mean, they're going to have to, he's either going to be the highest paid backup in the league, or he'll be directly starting for someone who is in desperate need of a quarterback. And someone is a whole lot of NFL teams right now. Oh, and it is 8:24. It's about that time of the program. Y'all know how we do. Every single Wednesday night at 8:24 p.m., got to pay homage to the late, great Kobe Bean. So I'm going to count this thing down. Mike Beasley's going to hit you with a couple of little Kobe highlights, and then he's going to take this thing away and let y'all know who pays the bills around here at KINGZ Broadcasting for Petty Sportz. 3, 2, 1. Kobe. Rest in peace to the Black Mamba. We'll never forget. Mike Beasley, go ahead and take this thing away.
Yes, sir. Famous Facts Feeds. Appreciate it, brother man. Happy holidays to you. I appreciate that hoodie, man. Good looking out, me brethren.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, you tuned in, of course, to the one and only Petty Sportz Show every Wednesday night, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, all brought to you by KINGZ Broadcasting Studios. We welcome you to the show. If it's your first time, thank you for joining. If not, please share the show. Even if it is your first time, share the show with some of your friends, neighbors, co-workers. Call your friends, neighbors, co-workers. Text them. Let them know one of the hottest shows around right here in the A-Town, talking about sports on a real level, man. You know what I'm saying? They can tune in. They can call in. They can get in the chat room. We see y'all out there. Wesley, Jamila, you know, she got me a little nervous. She rooting for my team, man, so I don't know how to feel about that. Armand, you know what I'm saying? Delane, we see y'all out there, man. Appreciate y'all supporting the show tonight, man. Like I say, share. Scotty King, I see you, me brethren. Yeah, we appreciate the support, because without no you, there is no us. All right? You know what I'm saying? So, happy holidays. Thank you for tuning in. Go to the different platforms, iHeart, Google, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and you can hear the shows there as well. Right now, I'm watching our show live on Boxcast. So if you have a smart TV, Boxcast is an absolutely free app that you can download. It's on Roku. Man, can take or whatever you got to say about anything we're talking about, or something that we may not have covered, or something that Fees may not have covered, and you got something to say about it. You know what I'm saying? So we welcome all that right there. So feel free to call in. I want to hear that call line jumping tonight. You know what I'm saying? Got me a real nice hoodie. I feel really doing some good solid. If you go out to the different platforms, like especially on YouTube, go over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, that notification bell, so whenever the show airs and go hot and live, you will be notified and you can tune in right away and won't miss a beat. You know what I'm saying? And do the same thing on Facebook. Go over there, hit that thumbs up. You can tune in right away. Get out the hottest off the press news, anything in the sports world.
What's up, fellas? You already know what time it is. It's your boy. Had to get in on the show. Man, it's been a crazy day. I missed the start of the show, but bro, that one goes so hard with y'all. I appreciate you, Fees. I appreciate the whole team tonight just doing their thing. I had to call in and give some love, of course.
On the back too.
Oh God.
They can't stop him. I mean, he's second in the league in scoring. Trey is balling. He's second in scoring, third in assists. He's having a great year. If the Hawks were in better position, then he'd be in the early MVP talks. It's just from 11th place in the East, there's no way he's even getting in that conversation. Doesn't matter what kind of numbers he puts up. But if everyone is out there on the court, I feel like Trey will have a legendary Madison Square Garden game on Christmas Day. But I still think the Knicks will win. And it's really just because they can't not defend in the paint. The Knicks score way too easy when they play against the Hawks. It's like the Hawks will work hard for a bucket. They might hit a three, work it around. I mean, the defense is tough, and they get their points. So then the Knicks come right back down the floor, run a backdoor cut. So, I mean, they're going to have to really button some things up because that series in the playoffs was very tight. And each game we've seen so far this season between these two teams has been very tight. So, I mean, they're going to need a crazy performance from everybody. All your stars got to step up. You need Trae Young to go for 40-plus points. You need John Collins to have a great game. And you also need to show up on defense. Learn to defend in the paint. I mean, I don't know what else to tell them if I see it from the outside, and I haven't been watching y'all like that. I'm not even going to act like I have been. If I can see that you having a major deficiency in the paint, then there are people who get paid to see what your problems are and work on fixing them. Like, what are y'all doing? Is that what we do? It's like, come on, man. Y'all got to button this thing up. It's a problem. It's not looking good. So, man, then we move on to the 2:30 game. At 2:30, we got the Boston Celtics at the Milwaukee Bucks. The Celtics are 15-16, sitting in the 9 spot. The Bucks are 19-13, the defending world champion Bucks, and they're in 5th place. So, man, just to let you know, the whole NBA is coming back to the Celtics, to the team that drafted him 20 years ago. And old ISO Joe is going to come out and make his re-debut in the NBA. So, I mean, if you look at the COVID list for Boston, they got Jabari Parker out. Al Horford is on the list. I mean, Tatum and the boys are still playing, but like they need some depth. I mean, as good as Boston team looks on paper, that hasn't panned out. So, I mean, there's definitely something to be desired in Beantown. But you flip the page and look at the Milwaukee Bucks. They played Boston twice this year, and Boston won. They won the first of the 2 matchups, but it's like it was a tale of 2 games. I mean, there was no Giannis in the first game. He was a scratch, so Boston won that one, but it was still a tight game, even without Giannis. But then in the game that Giannis did play in, Jason Tatum dropped 42 points on him, put up 16 in the fourth quarter, had a legendary performance against them. So, I mean, Boston looks like they really got something on their minds. So, I mean, with a healthy Tatum, even with DiVincenzo out, Bobby Portis out, Wes Matthews out, I mean, if you get a big game out of Giannis, I don't know if Boston can stop them. You're going to need another 40-plus point performance from Jason Tatum on Christmas Day. And you're probably going to need at least about a good 20 out of ISO Joe coming fresh off the streets. He might have just came fresh from Ice Cube crib playing in the Big Three. But you're going to need him to come out and actually show out and have a fairly decent performance here in this game. But all in all, I'm going to take the Bucks. I just don't trust the Celtics. I mean, that's a big ask. So long as you got a healthy Giannis out there, the way that he turned his game around in the finals and stopped actually just completely ISOing the entire game and trying to bull rush through the wall that most teams set up. I mean, most teams, everyone except for the Phoenix Suns because they're stupid. The Boston Celtics are going to put up a wall, but he's willing to pass the ball, and he's got shooters around him. I mean, until I see a formula that can actually beat that, I'm going to have to roll with the Milwaukee Bucks. So I got, so far? I got the Knicks and I got the Bucks. Both home teams winning so far. Then we get to the marquee matchup, the game of Christmas Day, 5 o'clock Eastern. The 25-6 Golden State Warriors, second place in the Western Conference, travel to Phoenix to take on the 25-5 Suns, who sit in first place in the Western Conference. Easily the best matchup of the day. Maybe not for the names, but as far as the actual teams involved, best matchup we got by far. They split their previous 2 meetings this season. Both times the home team won. I mean, the Suns dropped them 104-96 the first time. Steph Curry probably had one of the worst shooting nights of his entire career. Went 4 for 21 from the field, 3 for 14 from three-point. Just non-existent. No way Golden State wins any games when Steph shoots like that. But how many times have we ever seen Steph shoot like that? So, I mean, he came right back the next game, which was 2-3 days later. They played each other back-to-back. The second game was the one where they moved the Lakers out of prime time. And then they played them again. Golden State beat them. Curry dropped 23, but they got a big performance out of Andrew Wiggins. And there was no Devin Booker in that game. So, I mean, there's a lot of factors back and forth on both sides that went into each victory. But at the end of the day, both home teams were able to come out with the W in this series so far. Phoenix doesn't have any players that are on the COVID list right now. Golden State is still looking at Jordan Poole and Wiggins possibly being out, being in COVID protocols. So, I mean, Wiggins and Poole have both been playing very good basketball in this Golden State run. So, I mean, they're going to hurt. If those two guys aren't out there, it's going to take a legendary performance out of Steph to overcome the Phoenix Suns, especially if Devin Booker plays. Like, Booker wasn't on COVID protocol. That was a hamstring. He went out at halftime of the first game, and the second game was only a couple of days later, so that's why he didn't play. I will expect Devin Booker to be out there, but what I also expect is for Steph Curry to break a Christmas Day record. Probably most three-pointers ever hit on a Christmas Day game. Possibly points, but I don't know about the points record. I think the points record is extremely high. If I'm not mistaken, it might be an Elgin Baylor type record, like 61 points. It's something that's a little bit far-fetched for you to call someone breaking that. If he has an out-of-body shooting night and they just can't stop him, clearly Steph is capable of putting up 60-plus points, but I'm not going to call for him to do that. I think he will break a three-point record for Christmas Day, though. You can mark that. I think the Golden State Warriors will take control of the series against the Phoenix Suns. Steph Curry will have a 40-plus to 50-point night, and the Golden State Warriors will take this game. So now we move on to what was considered the game of the day for Christmas. They pushed it back to 8 o'clock, and I'm pretty sure they pushed the game back to 8 o'clock because the NFL put games on Saturday too. and they didn't want to have their games in prime time competing with the NFL. But lo and behold, here it is. We got the first place Brooklyn Nets, 21-9, traveling to L.A. to play the Lakers, 16-16. They're sitting right at 500 in seventh place in the West. This is their first meeting this season. And in their first meeting, we've got KD, Kyrie, and Harden all in safety protocols. So, I mean, that could completely change the complexion of this game. If you don't have any of them, because, I mean, as we've all heard, Kyrie is now been taken on as a part-time player. So when they play on the road, Kyrie is a go. He can't play at home because the COVID rules are stupid. Visiting players that are unvaxxed can play, but a home player cannot. I mean, if someone can't make common sense prevail, then Jesus Christ, why do you guys make so much money? I mean, all things being equal, so long as KD and Harden actually play, the Nets should actually be able to coast past this Lakers team, because if you've been watching or even listening to what's going on, the Lakers are struggling. No Anthony Davis, because Mr. Glass, a.k.a. Street Clothes, is sitting out once again 4 to 6 weeks. So he's going to be gone for quite some time. Now you've got an aging LeBron. You've got Westbrook out of place. Everyone else on the team is pretty much past their prime. It's like they've got a lot to figure out. The only bright spot is in the games that they played earlier in the season without Anthony Davis, the team actually flows a little bit better. So, I mean, the Lakers could actually pick up and find their stride while AD is out. I mean, that leaves the lane open. Anthony Davis plays way slower than the rest of the team. I mean, if you let Russ run, open the lane up, and actually give him people to kick the ball to, the game is different. This is a completely different Laker team. He's played with Carmelo before. He's trying to figure out how to get things together with LeBron. But all in all, the Lakers still have time. So I'm like, man, I'm not going to push the panic button on the Lakers just yet, because it's a long season. And normally, pretty much every single time you've seen a super team just slap together, because this is not the same Laker team from last year. When you put all these new faces on the team, doesn't matter how good they are, it takes a while for them to figure out the chemistry and how they actually work well together. So, I mean, holler at me when the Lakers are 60 games into the season and all of a sudden they're going on a run. When they go on this run, then people are going to be like, well, it's a super team. Well, it's like a cheat code. They brought everybody together, even though right now everyone is looking at the Lakers like, yeah, they're washed up, they're old. That's a wrap for them. So, I mean, I think all in all, the Nets are going to win this game. I don't really see the Lakers taking this one unless it's a LeBron and Westbrook masterpiece, which to this point, we haven't really seen that. They haven't been playing together long enough to actually have that in their back pocket. It would be great to watch, but I doubt it. I'm going to take the Brooklyn Nets. They're going to win this game, and I think they'll win this game handily so long as at least Kevin Durant and James Harden are playing. So, I mean, the last game of the night, we've got the Mavericks, 15-15. They're also 500, sitting one game right behind the Lakers. And they're traveling to Utah to play the third-place Jazz. This is the first of their 3 meetings this season. I mean, I don't really see anything that Dallas has to offer that says that they're going to beat the Utah Jazz. Utah's first in the league in points per game this season, and they're also 6th in points allowed. And they're playing great offense and great defense at the same time. This Utah team, they're really clicking. Dallas is 5th in points, but they're giving up the 26 most points in the game. There's only 30 teams, just like I told you when I was talking about the Hawks. Out of 30 teams, you're 26 in points per game. I mean, the Dallas Mavericks are giving up more points than they're actually scoring this season, and that's why they're at 500, because it's a straight-up coin toss as to which team is going to show up. I don't think it's anything different for the late game. It doesn't come on until 10:30, and quite frankly, everyone will either be asleep or out somewhere with their friends because people are in town for Christmas. That game won't really be watched. The Jazz will win. Everyone will just see it from checking their ESPN app on the late night or even just hearing about it in the morning. Not going to watch that game. but the Mavericks will lose. The Jazz, they're going to cruise to a victory, probably in a blowout. So, man, we passed the 8:45 break. I'm going to throw this thing over to Mike Beasley one time so he can let you know who's paying these bills around here at Petty Sportz.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Facts, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. You are watching the Wednesday night edition of Petty Sportz, all brought to you by KINGZ Broadcasting Studios. We greatly appreciate everybody joining tonight. You know what I'm saying? During this holiday season. Share the love. Share the love. Call a friend, neighbor, coworker. Text a friend, neighbor, coworker. Let them know the guy is on at the table talking big sports, facts, all of that right there. You know what I'm saying? We 1 quart low, but we going to hold it in the road for Adam tonight. You know what I'm saying? Like we always do when somebody's not able to make it in. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. We see you in the chat room out there going in. Jamila, you and West today. Y'all go. You know what I'm saying? Like always. But it's all good. We love it. We love it. Call in 678-871-9602. 678-871-9602. That's how you can be a part of the show tonight. All right? Don't be afraid. Call in and share some of that holiday cheer with us. All right? Go to different platforms. Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeart, all of that. Type in Petty Sportz with a Z and you can listen to the previously aired shows as well as this one. Will probably be out maybe Friday. All right? So thank you. Another big solid. When you go to YouTube, to the Petty Sportz page, dial in over there and hit that notification bell. Hit that subscription bell. You know what I'm saying? So anytime the show goes hot, you know, we trying to tickle that algorithm. You know what I'm saying? That's what we looking for out here. You know what I'm saying? To drive some numbers in a big way over on the YouTube side of things. So we appreciate everybody that's been joining the page here lately over on Facebook. You guys are going nuts, you know, over the you like some of the videos and content that's been posted over there, and we like that you like it. All right, so come on over to YouTube, share some of that same love, drive some numbers over there, and support black business, support black businesses, because we do ATL.
Yes, sir. We're going to change gears now. We got to go back to some exhibition boxing. I know a lot of y'all follow everything. And if you follow everything, you follow what's entertaining. So y'all know we had the Jake Paul, Tyron Woodley rematch, but there was an undercard. And my God, it was an entertaining undercard. We've got former NBA Allstar Deron Williams faced off against a future Hall of Famer, Frank Gore. And I mean, if you watch the hype to the fight, Frank Gore is ripped. I mean, you knew him when he was playing in the NFL. I mean, he's like top 5 all time in rushing. He played for a long time, but it doesn't matter how long you play. For you to reach your feet like that, you were a monster. And in his training, he was in his videos, ripped up, throwing power punches. I mean, he was looking like he was ready to go in and do work. That's what him and his trainers, everybody was trying to let us know. They're like, man, he going to go out there and it's going to get ugly. He's going to get in. He's going to make it dirty. He's going to just tear him apart. Looked like he was going to try to eat him up with the body blows. But then there's this other issue. Frank Gore is 5'9". He went in there in the ring and faced off against a 6'3" Deron Williams, who has been training for the better part of a decade. Like, he's been boxing. He hasn't had any professional fights because this was his debut, as was for Frank Gore, but he has been training. He's comfortable in the ring. He's been doing it for quite some time. And when they got out there, it was just, I think Deron Williams, he had to go out there and bring it back for the NBA players one time because we all remember Nate Robinson and the sleep. He got dropped, and that was disgusting. Deron Williams came out, and he said, man, it ain't happening like that. I mean, him and Frank Gore, they went at it. It was a 4-round bout, but Deron dominated. I really don't understand how it was a split decision. Whatever that judge was watching that actually gave the fight to Frank Gore, he needs his eyes checked. Maybe he has the Omarion. Something's wrong with him. So, I mean, the numbers were even, but if you actually watch this quick 4 rounds, it's like, man, D. Will did his thing. He used his reach to his advantage. I mean, granted, he did only outland him on jabs 13-11. He hit 48 punches to 39. I know it seems like, oh, neither one of them did much. It was only 4 rounds, and they're not real boxers. So, I mean, we got to take what we regularly know about CompuBox boxing stats and throw that out the window. These guys are former professional athletes in other sports, and they hopped into the ring. I mean, Deron Williams, he caught him with a couple of nasty shots. We saw the one shot where Frank Gore looked like he was just thoroughly surprised, like, oh, my God, here it comes. And then it came, and he smacked him clean across the face. And after the one good punch that Frank Gore landed for the entire fight, Deron Williams came back, regained his feet, just straight launched Frank Gore to the floor. I mean, he pushed him. It wasn't a punch. Pushed him through the ropes and then started pounding on him. It's like Frank Gore was out there looking like he was just overmatched. It's like, man, this dude is too long. He's actually aggressive. He thought that he was just going to get out there and just like kind of just bob and weave and tinker around. Deron Williams brought it to him. Say he had to bring it back one time for the light skin. That's what it was. He out there with Drake and Steph Curry and them now. It's D. Will, the boxer. But, I mean, when they asked him if he was going to pursue, he said no. He was going. It's a one and done for him. Not going to box again. But, I mean, D. Will took him out. And he gave us some nice memes to go along with that. I mean, I'm pretty sure y'all have seen all the crazy surprise face memes. So, I mean, that was entertaining. I enjoyed that. So, I mean, then you get to the main event. Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley. For all the noise that Woodley talked about what happened in the first fight, and if you watch the first fight, you can see that clearly if Woodley hadn't have pulled his punches and been scared of getting knocked out, he could have taken Jake Paul out. But in saying that now, hindsight is 20/20. He was scared of that right hand for a reason. He was scared of it because it put him to sleep. Jesus. That was 6 rounds of boring boxing up until the point where it happened. They were just out there. I mean, Woodley looked like he was not in shape for this fight. Definitely did not come out like he did in the first one. He was moving. He actually was landing blows. I mean, it's like every single punch Woodley threw, he was trying to go for a power punch or a knockout. It's like that's not how fights work. If you look at what Jake Paul did, 18 jabs landed to only 4 for Woodley. He used his size and his reach advantage to his advantage. He still landed 25 power punches. And then what you saw in the 6th round, caught him with that hand down, with a deadly blow. You saw all the sweat fly off of Woodley's face. And then you saw him face plant straight into the canvas. Feet parallel to the floor. They just put him to sleep. Like, you want to see a dead body? It was straight boys in the hood. It was disgusting. It was up there with Nate Robinson's knockout. It was up there with Manny Pacquiao's knockout. That man went night-night. He didn't even have nothing to say after the fight. He was standing there in the ring doing the post-fight conference and the interviews, just looking at Jake Paul like he didn't know where the hell he was. It's like, oh, like, yeah, we know that you ain't right, because he normally talks a whole lot of trash. Even in the loss, he would have had something to say, but he got knocked senseless. He had nothing. I'm positive when Jake Paul put his arm around him was like, hey, big ups to Tyrone for taking this fight with 2 weeks' notice and coming out here. He looked dazed and confused. He did not know where he was. He like, man, who hand is this on me? Like, what am I doing in here? Why all these cameras out here? I mean, Tyrone still might not know where he is. Like, it was that bad. He definitely need not ever step back into that ring. I mean, for you to get put down looking like some type of a rag doll, I didn't even know your feet could do that. I'm pretty sure if I laid on the floor and tried to put my feet that way, I couldn't do it. You got to be straight put to sleep for your body to be that limp. Sad. They're like, bruh, it's about to be Christmas. You going home with your family, and I'm pretty sure you got a couple of cousins or a brother or somebody that's going to be like, man, I know if this was Kane whooping your ass on this TV. Like, come on, man. Don't ever step inside that ring again. So, now we're looking at possible opponents for Jake Paul. He's calling out Nate Diaz. He's talking about he might want to fight Jorge Masvidal. Like, they're not boxers. Nate Diaz is scrappy and he's grimy in UFC, but he's not a boxer. If he's not allowed to grab you, take you to the ground, he can't do any of that. He's very limited. So, although it's a big name and we know he's a tough guy and he is a current UFC fighter, I still don't really know that I want to see that. Like, I would like to see Jake Paul fight an actual boxer. He doesn't have to fight the number one contender or somebody who's blazing the scene right now in his weight class. Just fight someone who actually trains to box. Do what everyone else does when they move up the ranks. Fight the people at the bottom of the weight class that you're in and work your way up. You keep taking these celebrity prize fights because they got names, and granted, I get it. Who's going to sign up to actually pay money to watch Jake Paul fight against another fighter that we don't know? Nobody. And that's why he's doing it the way he's doing it. But I have heard murmurs via Wes Davis that he could be signing up next to fight Anderson Silva. Now, that would be an interesting fight. Anderson, that'll be the first time, I believe, Jake Paul stepped inside the ring with an athlete that is actually seasoned to stand in front of you and box. He's still got some juice left in the tank. I think Anderson would clown him and whoop his ass, and that would probably be the end of all these big Jake Paul fights. So, if he signs up to fight Anderson Silva, I'm all the way on it. I'll pay for that. I probably won't. I'll watch it on Fire Stick. But I would pay to watch that fight if I couldn't watch it without doing so. Not mad at that. So, man, the latest in the Jake Paul news, y'all just stay tuned for it. I'm going to definitely keep y'all abreast. Whoever he's fighting next, I'm going to be all over it. Hell, we might need to get a Famous Fees versus Jake Paul fight. He ain't that big. He's the same size as me. 6'1", 190. I'll get out there with him. Let me train for a month and let me fight him. Give me the payday. Y'all chime in. Let Petty Nation, let them know. Say y'all want to see Famous Fees versus Jake Paul, the YouTube guy. Come get some. He be talking all kinds of trash out there in that ring. Sign up. I got you. You put however many cases of due on it. You can bet on it. Do what you do. This will be the debut. Fees over Paul. That's what it is. We reached the top of the hour now. It's 9 o'clock. I'm going to throw this thing over to Mike Beasley. Y'all boys keep it locked. The show been hot. We appreciate everybody who tuned in. All of your comments. Make sure you don't go nowhere. I got a good one for you when we come back.
Yes. Famous Facts Fees. You know what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. You are watching your boy Famous Facts over there doing his thizzle. You know what I'm saying? We appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. All of this is brought to you by KINGZ Broadcasting Studios. You can go over to YouTube and do us a big solid and subscribe to the page. Hit the notification bell. So anytime the show goes hot, you will be notified and won't miss a beat. Feel free to call in tonight, 678-871-9602, 678-871-9602. Call in, make it do what it do. You know what I'm saying? Spread some of the holiday cheer, like I said a little earlier. Share the show with your friends, your neighbors, your co-workers. Text them, call them, let them know it's on and popping right now at the table, the holiday edition. You know what I'm saying? We still going in. Got a whole nother hour left. You saw the fight. I heard Le'Veon Bell trying to get some of the action. You know, he said he keep fighting little Rooter Poops, and Le'Veon won't in on it, you know. So it's a lot of rumors going around about who this guy may step to the plate with next or in the ring with next. So I think it's fun and fascinating. But, yeah, Appreciate you. Everybody that's out there in the chat room doing what they do. I see you out there. They say the fight was fixed, Fees. They say this guy took a dive. I don't know if I agree with that, man. That guy got hit pretty hard. When you take a dive, you don't normally take a shot like that, I don't believe. But, you know, boxing is known to be pretty greasy. So, hey, we'll see next time. Get somebody in there, like you say, Anderson Silva, that might be able to just go up, head up with him, and we know it'll be real then. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Go to KINGZBroadcasting.com, Kings with a Z. Spend some money over there, right? You know what I'm saying? Got a big donate button at the bottom of that home page where you can just show major love. No donation is too big or too small. This is the holiday season, so feel free to give. We greatly appreciate that. We on the Fed Book of Face, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff right there, man. Go over, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, like, all of that good stuff, man. And hey, support black business, support black businesses, because we do ATL.
Yes, sir. You are back to Petty Sportz, the podcast brought to you by KINGZ Broadcasting Studios. It is the top of the hour. We are here for hour number 2. Y'all see I've been changing the hats like Corso in this thing. I gave you the Patriots. I gave you Santa Fees. I gave you the Petty Sportz. Now it's Savannah State. Why do I have on the Savannah State hoodie? It's because of the HBCU love. And you know we going from HBCU, flipping right on into Travis Hunter. We talked about Travis last week and him making a historic decision for the first time ever, a 5-star number 1 recruit committing to an HBCU, going to Jackson State University. Now, there's been a major fallout. We've got coaches, we've got media people, like they're really showing their true colors, talking about what this man did. Just recently, Doug Gottlieb from Fox Sports. You probably don't know who he is because he comes on at like 3 o'clock in the morning. He's a Fox Sports nobody. But that's him. He says Twitter is celebrating the kid making an obvious mistake is hilarious. The bigger schools have way more resources, bigger alumni bases, play at a higher level. They got greater support in academics, athletics, training, etc. What the hell are you talking about? This kid making an obvious mistake because he's making a historic move to actually change the narrative? It's not a mistake. It's a historic, like, oh, they're really going to do that now? Like the best players in the nation, the black players, are going to go to the black schools? They don't like it. It's not a mistake. It's groundbreaking. He's starting something. Travis has been on Twitter talking to other fellow 5-star recruits saying he's trying to make it easier and more acceptable and okay for them to do the same. They don't all have to follow him to Jackson State. They can start going to other HBCU programs. They can go to the Savannah States. They can go to Morehouses, to Gramblin's. Gramblin's got Hugh Jackson over there. I mean, Eddie George is over at Tennessee State now. Howard and Hampton are always big, prestigious HBCU programs. You got FAMU right across the street from Florida State. I mean, the HBCUs are abundant. And they do have a rich football history from back before the sport was actually integrated with multiple Hall of Famers. We all know about Jerry Rice, Walter Payton, all of these guys. They went to HBCUs. Oh, Uncle Shay that you listen to every day on Undisputed, Savannah State alumni. My God, he's a Tiger. So, I mean, if you look at a few more people that sounded off really telling on themselves, Dabo Swinney. When he started talking about the transfer portal and the name, image, and likeness rule, I'm going to just actually read you some quotes from him. He says, total chaos right now, tampering galore. Like, tampering? Who's tampering? Like, what is you talking about? Say kids are being manipulated, the grass is greener and all that stuff as opposed to putting in the work and graduating. There's no consequences, so now you've got agents and NIL tampering and no consequences. And no consequences equals no conscience. There's no reason for pause, no barrier for young people, like nothing. Education is the last thing right now. And so what are you insinuating, Dabo? Are you saying that they won't get an education if they go to an HBCU? Like, is that where you're at with it? You're saying that kids are being manipulated. How? You're saying because they go to a school that has a former NFL Hall of Famer or a former NFL head coach is being manipulated because they want to go somewhere where they feel like they're all the way accepted and they like what the coach is talking about, as opposed to you walking into the living room saying you can compete for a national championship and possibly go to the NFL? Because I guarantee you're not in those parents' living rooms preaching about academics. The players on those teams are not engineering majors. Most of the players are majoring in like park recs and tourism. What kind of academic future is that? You're going to be a park ranger? You're going to chase down Yogi Bear, stealing picnic baskets? Man, get out of here. Like, you're talking on some pure ridiculousness. Then he went on to say some are and some shouldn't. And he's talking about players being in the transfer portal. Some of the lessons we're teaching the young people, I don't think is going to benefit them as well as they move through their life. So you're saying that if they go to an HBCU surrounded by an entire student body that looks like them and has similar ideals and interests, and they can still play football and still go to the NFL and still create generational wealth for their families, that's not preparing them for life? Like, bro, you missed the ball. But I don't think you missed the ball. You're just talking out the side of your neck, trying not to say what it really is. You just don't like that these kids have opened their eyes, and the decision by Travis is really about to have an extreme ripple wave on the landscape of college football. I mean, Nick Saban came out, and then he had contradictory statements because we said just a day or so ago saying that players should be free to make their own decisions. He doesn't really want to get into that. He knows Coach Prime. He was a great player. He's a great guy, great coach. It's like, yeah, all of that sounds great. It sounds like, yeah, Nick has completely stepped back. But then he also said that it's not a great idea for the players that think that the grass is greener, and talked about the difficulties in keeping their rosters together from the players at the bottom and the players that are leaving to go to the league. So it's like you sounded like you were really on board with saying the players should be able to do what they want to do, and then you circle back. You said both. You can't have both, so I'm not giving you a pass either. So Nick can miss me with that. Dabo can miss me with that. But then we can just look at an even more recent example of the hypocrisy of how these coaches and media members are approaching the whole name, image, likeness thing as it pertains to players going to HBCUs. Did we not just listen to everyone tell us this summer about how Bryce Young was getting just barely south of $1 million worth of endorsements before he'd even started a game for Alabama? He was the backup. Every game that you saw before then, those were Mac Jones games, not Bryce Young. Bryce was not the starter. Bryce was not the man. You were hard-pressed to know who Bryce Young was because it was all Mac. And over the summer, coming into this season, Bryce Young got $1 million worth of endorsements through the name, image, and likeness passing that players could be paid to play. No one had an issue with that all season long. You're talking about, look how good Bryce is. Bryce is earning the money. He's getting $1 million. That's what it looks like when you play for a big program and you get paid the money. So why are we looking sideways at Travis Hunter? He's going to get his money. If Bryce Young could get his money and he hadn't played, why can't Travis Hunter get his money at a different school? You saying that it's only okay if he goes to a school that's okay with you? If he goes to Florida State, who was 5-7 last year, and straight up trash in a bad conference? I mean, who the hell even won the ACC last year? I don't even know. We know it wasn't Clemson. All the teams in that conference were bad. Michigan. Miami was bad. Florida State was bad. Clemson was bad. They didn't have good teams. And we're mad at him because he chose Jackson State over Florida State? Or are you mad because Deion took him from his alma mater? Maybe Deion's got something cooking over there. And I mean, if this movement actually carries on, it's going to have a trickle effect. You'll have other players and other sports start going to HBCUs. The enrollment at the HBCUs will come up. The endowments at the HBCUs will come up. They'll start getting more donations from the alumni. These schools will get bigger. They'll get better. And it'll be to a point where the HBCU schools might actually be better than the Power 5 schools, because Power 5 is something that you made up anyway. What's the definition of Power 5? The 5 conferences that you have confidence in? That's not actually a thing. Power 5 is what the media has called it because those are the PWI schools that you look for. I mean, the last area of recruits that I think will actually end up going to HBCUs will be the players from the West Coast. So I think Lincoln Riley is going to benefit even more from this because it'll be the only big program that's not being affected by players going to HBCUs, and that's simply because of the fact that when you get west of Texas, there aren't really any more HBCUs that way. They're not being exposed to it. Their parents didn't graduate from HBCUs or go to HBCUs. They don't see that life. So, I mean, it'll be much easier for them to go to bigger schools in the pack. So, I mean, they'll continue on out that way for a while longer than what the movement takes on in the South and up the East Coast where the HBCUs are abundant. But at the end of the day, all these media members that are saying things and all the coaches that are acting as if the name, image, likeness is the reason why players are going to HBCUs and they're being manipulated because they're getting all the money. The HBCUs ain't got no money. Y'all can kick rocks. They're going to the schools because they want to go to the schools. As soon as the money does come, because it will come, when the players go there, the money is going to follow. The TV contracts will follow. That's what everybody's going to watch. If all the best players are playing at the HBCU, that's what we're watching on Saturday. And at that point, their facilities will come up. The stadiums will get bigger. The weight rooms will get more lavish. They'll get bigger NIL deals. And things will change. So, I mean, for us to see this happening, this is historic, it's monumental, and it's great. And for anyone who is against it, like, you can kick rocks in this trail because the trail is being blazed. We ain't worried about you. And that's why I put the Savannah State hat on. One time for the HBCUs, all my Savannah State grads, I see Jamala in there. She's sounding off repping for the HBCUs. I see my man talking about HU. That's what's up. It's all good for the HBCUs. Now, I'm going to change gears. I'm staying with football, but we're going to move to the NFL. It's getting tight in the NFL. We're going into week 16. Yes, week 16. We got 3 weeks of NFL football left. The MVP race is tight. This is probably one of the tightest races we've seen in quite some time. So, I'm going to just run down the candidates that I got for you. In my MVP race, I wanted to give you a top 5. I really can only give you 4. If I was to give you a 5th person, it would just be somebody randomly being added in there because I got to force a 5th in, and I don't want to do that. So I'm only giving you 4. First and foremost, the person who I picked to win MVP before the season started, Tom Brady. 10-4. 3rd place in the NFC. 4,348 yards passing, first in the NFL. 36 touchdowns, first in the NFL. He's got a 100.4 quarterback rating, 8th in the NFL. And keep in mind now, this man is 44 years old, and they are still blazing. Coming fresh off of a Super Bowl win and a Super Bowl MVP. Having a great season regardless of his age. I mean, he's leading the league in yards and touchdowns through 15 weeks. No way you can scoff at that. But then you got last year's MVP right at his heels, and some would say neck and neck or even ahead of him. Aaron Rodgers is 11-2 in his 13 starts. As we recall, he did miss one game because of him lying about his vaccination status, talking about he's immunized. But his team is first place in the NFC. He's thrown for 3,487 yards, so he is almost 1,000 yards below Brady in only one less game. 30 passing touchdowns, fifth in the league, tied with Pat Mahomes. And a 110.4 quarterback rating, which is first in the NFL. So if Green Bay continues and wins if they take their last 3 games, hold on to the first seed in the NFC, it is going to be very difficult to argue against Aaron Rodgers winning back-to-back MVPs, even as well as Tom Brady is playing. I mean, both teams went out. I don't know who's getting that. But in the event that either of them takes a slide, even if their teams win, if they start having bad numbers, you've still got Pat Mahomes stumbling into this race. The Kansas City Chiefs are 10-4. They're first place in the AFC. Pat's thrown for 4,052 yards, fifth place in the NFL. 30 touchdowns, also fifth in the NFL. But he has a 95.8 rating. That's 12th. I mean, 12th isn't terrible. But if we're talking about the MVP, your passer rating being ranked 12th and below 100, I mean, I think that might be an indictment, especially for what I told you that Pat Mahomes has done over this 7-game win streak minus the 2 Raider games. Like, the Raiders have boosted and bolstered his stats like no other. Without those games, he's having a very average season, and we're like, what the hell is wrong with the Kansas City Chiefs? But, I mean, he's got 3 games. If he can continue what he's done in his last 2 games, through these last 3, he's going to make a very strong push and have a case to actually jump back in this MVP race and steal it, because they are first place in the AFC. So they've got the record to go along with the numbers, because you absolutely need both. You'll never win MVP without both. But then in the 4th spot, I'm going to have to give a nod to Jonathan Taylor. I don't know what happened to him in the beginning of the season, but they're 8-6. He's come on so strong. 1,518 rushing yards, first in the NFL through 15 games. He's averaging over 100 yards per game. I mean, for anyone who's been watching the NFL over the years, like most of us that are in it, that is not easy to do. I mean, a lot of times people be like, oh, you ran for 1,000 yards. To rush for 1,000 yards, you only need to get about 75 yards a game, not 100. 100 yards a game is on a different level. Only Taylor and Derrick Henry are averaging over 100 yards a game, and we haven't seen Derrick Henry in a month. But he's also got 17 touchdowns, which is first in the league. I mean, he's backing it up. He's running for the yards, and he's scoring. He's brought his team back into contention. He's actually making Carson Wentz look like something, and it has nothing to do with Carson Wentz. He had 3 times more yards rushing than Carson Wentz had passing in their last game. It has nothing to do with their passing games. It's all Jonathan Taylor. If he can keep doing what he's been doing and this team make it to the playoffs and even just make it to the divisional round, they don't have to make a deep, deep run. I mean, if this dude keeps on what he's doing, he does have a semi-legitimate shot. Granted, against the names he's going against, even if Jonathan Taylor deserves it, he's not going to win it. You're going against Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and Pat Mahomes. You're not winning MVP, even if you deserve it. Because, I mean, he's not going for me. He might possibly go over 2,000 yards, but then it'll be like, you went over 2,000, but it was 17 games. You had an extra game, and that's why you did it. And it'll lessen the accomplishment, even if he is to actually break the single-season rushing record, because you had an extra game to do it. But he'll be a hell of an honorable mention. is still going to be one of the three quarterbacks. Think definitely between Brady and Rodgers, because the stretch that Mahomes has had, I don't think he actually is really in the mix. But that's what my MVP race and outlook is looking like for this season. So now we got to move it to the Week 16. Games to watch. Man, have y'all been watching this season? Every week it's crazy. Just when you think you know who's good, they're not. I mean, did y'all just see Detroit steamroll the Arizona Cardinals? Nobody called that. Nobody saw that at all. The line was 13 for Arizona, and they got blown out by Detroit. Jared Goff, he came out and tried to show y'all that he still got some juice in the tank. He is the same guy that took them to the Super Bowl. And for everyone that says it was the defense and the running game, Jared Goff was an MVP candidate that season. He threw for over 4,600 yards. He balled out. So don't trash that man like that. He came out there and played against Detroit last week like y'all must have forgot. That's what it was. But, man, tomorrow night, we got another really good Thursday night matchup. We got the San Francisco 49ers, who I thought were going to be on a 14-3 type level coming into the season, got decimated by injuries. Now they've gotten healthy, and now they're probably the one team that no one in the NFL wants to play. They are traveling to Tennessee to play the Titans tomorrow night. The Tennessee Titans are still decimated by injury, and everyone will hang their hat on that. I think they play a very similar style of football, and without the requisite weapons, Ryan Tannehill is going to have a terrible day at the park. I think the San Francisco 49ers will travel to Tennessee tomorrow night and embarrass the Titans. They have a strong defense. Jimmy Garoppolo is actually playing very good football. People don't really want to give Jimmy the credit that Jimmy deserves, but Jimmy is a good quarterback. 30-13 in his starts. He's been hurt a lot. The biggest knock on Jimmy is the fact that he can't stay healthy. When he's on the field, San Francisco wins. I mean, the last time he was healthy for a season, they went to the Super Bowl. This year is the second time that he's been healthy for a whole season, and now they are steamrolling all the way back. When's the last time we even mentioned Trey Lance? We don't talk about the guy anymore. We're not talking about them trading Jimmy Garoppolo to move on and start the Trey Lance era. It's looking now like Jimmy is going to keep doing Jimmy, and Trey might get another year on the bench to just sit behind him. But I'm absolutely taking the 49ers in this game. And what is the spread on that game? It's San Francisco -3. I will take San Francisco and the points. They'll cover the spread tomorrow night. Book that. Wes, I know you don't like it. You'll be all right. You're missing your players. You already got a ready-made excuse. No Derrick Henry. No AJ. No Julio. You lost. Be good with that. So now, another major matchup for Week 16. We've got the Cleveland Browns at the Green Bay Packers at 4:30. And the major significance of this is it's at 4:30 on Christmas Day. This game starts 30 minutes before the Warriors-Suns game. Like, they are really in the thick of it. The NFL just basically said, hey, our fan base is bigger than the NBA's. We're going to put games on the same day as yours, and people are going to watch what they want to watch. It's not going to be on prime time. It's going to be on NFL Network. But if you got folks like me, I'm going to have this football game on. I absolutely want to see what Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb and that devastating defense that the Cleveland Browns have to offer traveling into Green Bay against Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and now a newly resurgent Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. I mean, this could be a great football game along with the basketball game. I mean, if you got the setup like I do, you have both games on. I have multiple TVs going. So I'll have the Warriors and the Suns on one TV. I'll have the Browns and the Packers on another TV because we're absolutely watching both of those football games. But I think this is a very interesting matchup because the Cleveland Browns are desperate. And they are surging to try to save face. They went to the divisional round last year. They had a very good record last year. Now they're looking at possibly not making the playoffs. People are going to be on the hot seat. They have nothing to lose. They're going to go balls out in this game. And I don't know what Green Bay is going to do with it. I mean, I think you get a big showing out of Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett, I'm taking the Cleveland Browns to go into Green Bay and upset the Packers on Christmas Day. The Packers are a 7.5-point favorite at home in Lambeau for Christmas. I think this is one of the defining games to the Cleveland Browns for them to keep their drive alive for the season. They need the game more than the Packers do, and I think the Browns take it. They lost a devastating game last week to the Raiders, which I don't understand how that happened. I don't think they dropped the ball again. Then we got the Colts at the Cardinals. This one is also on Christmas Day. Tells you the NFL's coming with it. You got the Colts, who just steamrolled the Buffalo Bills, looked like they were going to steamroll New England, almost lost handle on it, and held out behind another crazy Jonathan Taylor performance against these Arizona Cardinals team, who they were the best team in the NFL, best record, couldn't deny that they were at the top of the power rankings. Now they're traveling into Arizona on Christmas Day, fresh off the loss to the Detroit Lions. And it's time for the Arizona Cardinals to show us who they are. You got dominated by Jared Goff and a bunch of nobodies. Well, who can we name on that team? Hawkinson? That's about it. Tight end. Well, they got Swift. Yeah. Like, what did he do? Nothing. So, what are you going to do against the Colts and Jonathan Taylor? Because he is on fire. And if you're susceptible to losing to the Detroit Lions, I don't care how big the line is, which it isn't. It's the Arizona Cardinals by 1. I'm going to take the Colts to win this and keep the movement on. The Colts win this game and the Tennessee Titans lose, all of a sudden you have a brand new race in the AFC South for who actually wins that division. Even with Tennessee sweeping the Colts this year, the Colts can still take the division. I mean, that'll be amazing in and of itself if they're able to accomplish that. And the last game on the weekend watch, none other than the Buffalo Bills traveling to the New England Patriots for the AFC East showdown. We just saw it a couple of weeks ago in a game that featured like 40 to 50 miles an hour winds where Mac Jones only threw 3 passes the entire game. New England just went ground and pound, played tough defense. And in that game, just like the last game, it was a special teams blunder that even made the game as close as it was. N'Keal Harry muffed the punt to actually give Buffalo the only touchdown they scored in that game. And the funny thing about the reports for this game is the weather report in New England for Sunday, guess what it's going to be? High winds. They're looking at 25 to 30 mile an hour winds. Not quite as heavy as what it was in Buffalo, but my God, are we going to get the same thing again? It could be another game where New England comes out and runs the ball 40, 50 times and Mac doesn't throw, and they just double down on the embarrassment of the Buffalo Bills in running the football, saying we don't have to throw against you because your your rush defense is that bad. New England is favored by 2.5 points in this game. And I don't think I had to tell y'all I'm taking the Patriots to win this game. This game will all but solidify who's taking the AFC East. And this will really hurt Buffalo's chances of getting in the playoffs. They'll have 2 tough games to finish the season, and we'll have to wait to see how that unfolds. But this will just cement the domination of Bill Belichick over the Buffalo Bills, who subsequently lost to Bill Belichick so many times that they named their whole team after Bill. Because that's what it is. So, man, we'd have made it to the top of the hour. It is 9:30. The time is rolling. Y'all still got some time. I see y'all chiming in on the Facebook. If you want to holler at me, hit me up at 678-871-9602. When we come back, I'm going to give you an update on the Petty Sportz Fantasy League. It's ugly because I'm not in it anymore. But I'm going to let y'all know how that thing look. We're going to come back. I'm going to give you the Week 16 predictions. Mike Beasley, take them away.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, you tune in like always every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern to Petty Sportz with famous facts, fees, and Adam Lewis. Adam is not in tonight, and we holding it in the road for him. So thank you for tuning in. All of this is brought to you by KINGZ Broadcasting Studios, like always. And call your friend, neighbors, and coworkers. Text your friend, neighbors, and coworkers. Let them know you got like a half hour left. You know, we are at the bottom of the hour tonight, and we're looking to go up. So tell them, tune in, catch some of these great picks for this week 16 that's getting ready to go into the books of the NFL. So big shouts out to you guys for tuning in. Like always, we greatly appreciate that and your support and showing the love like you always do. Feel free to call in at 678-871-9602, 678-871-9602. That's how you can be a part of the show tonight. Go over to the different platforms, the different podcast platforms like iHeart, Google, Spotify, all those type places right there, man, and tune in. Check it out. Download some of the previously aired shows over there. Just type in Petty Sportz, and we right there. Bam. You know what I'm saying? Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeart, all that right there, man. So we everywhere you want to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, what that, American Express, Visa? Who say that? Somebody say that. KINGZ Broadcasting say that. So, yeah, we everywhere you want to be. If you don't see us, you ain't looking. All right? How about that right there? So we even got our own fancy little website, right? If you type in kingsbroadcasting.com, you can see a lot of nice merch. You know what I'm saying? We got a radio station over there you can listen to. We got great gifts that put a smile on somebody's face, you know what I'm saying, this year for the holiday season. So go over there and spend some money with your boys and hit that donate button at the bottom if you're feeling real jiggy, you know, and help us keep bringing forth this great content and quality show like we do every week. You know what I'm saying? So thank you so much. Thank you so much. I see you out there, Miss Sharper. I see you, Rocky. I saw you checking in a little while ago, and everybody else that's doing their thizzle. Appreciate it. Hit them thumbs up and them heart emojis out there and show your love. You know what I'm saying? Get down with it like that. And even call in, like I said earlier. We appreciate it. All right? So thank you so much. And I'm signing off for tonight. Support black business, support black business, support black business. Because we do ATL, Hope.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We appreciate everybody chiming in. I see you, Big Rock Diesel. Hey, man, yo, that's my bro right there. I see Sharon there, my hey fam. Like, see, we got everybody in. It's the Christmas edition. They know what I'm doing tonight. They got to tune in and check us out. Hey, big ups to all of y'all that's been participating. I seen my man, what is it, Kevin Keefe? No, he called in last week. Morehouse alum. Hey, one time for the HBCUs. You see, I told you this was the Lee Corso edition where I start changing hats, but I ain't take this one off. We just had to just keep it on for the HBCUs. Y'all know I rock with the Pats. I ain't got to rock that every day. It's all good. So, man, check this out. Y'all remember before the season started, I sent y'all the links, told everybody to dive in, get in the Petty Sportz Fantasy League. So, man, I started this thing off killing. I was like 4-0, 5-0, something. And then just went straight to hell. Ended up 7-7. Like, my squads just ain't balling no more. I see Monica in the house. My sister's in there, too. That's Rock's twin. Said she was going to not go unnoticed. She had to holler at us, too. So, man, where are we looking at in this fantasy league? It's the top 4 teams. We got Who Dat Nation, which is Adam Lewis. Wow. He is at number 4, currently leading. I'm bad at fantasy. What a name. That's Carlos Diaz. He's in first place. Dude is 11-3. Wow. He went on, I think he won like 10 straight weeks. But you remember we came on one week and I had just beat him. And I talked cash money about his name and everything else, and he ain't lost since. And he flipped it right back around, and when I played him again, he beat me. And I'm out the playoffs. But Adam is currently ahead of him, though, 103-80. But, you know, it's a 2-week thing, so he got to come back and do it again this week. But then in the other matchup, we got none other than Wes Davis. You know, he's been in the chat trying to get me to talk about it, like, because he thought I wasn't going to talk about it. It was on the schedule. Relax. Wes Davis, the Prophet Posse, is currently winning over Mr. Holloman. I don't know who that is. He's at 10-4, second place, though. Braves World Series champs. I'm positive he changed his name. There's no way that was his name at the start of the season. But he's only up by 5 points. So, I mean, it's going to be real coming down the stretch. I see my man Dwight Battle. That's what's up. Good to see you in the chat. So, man, the whole fantasy season, I mean, it's panning out to be a crazy one. I mean, I'm sitting down here in the consolation bracket. I'm getting beat by Graham right now. I'm pretty sure he's gloating. He was waiting on me to say it. I'll give you your shine. We got LJ. It's called LJ Show Me Your TDs. She's currently beating my man G right now. She's up big, too, 105-61. I ain't down by that much. It's 65-81. Graham ain't got me yet. I can come back. Try to win like 5th place or something. But yeah, man, it's been a real fantasy season. I mean, we've been keeping up with it. We didn't give you all the updates all year long on the fantasy, but man, it's been a pretty dope season. Folks been in and out, talking trash, players out, trying to dump in on the waiver wire. Being like, it's been a real testament to how good you are at managing your team because no one is without injuries. Everybody's fantasy team has been decimated. You got backup players that started the ball. Like, man, your team benefited. So it's kind of like the people who had to draft later have better teams because the players that went early are all out. So, but hey, just like they always say, the best ability is availability. Definitely the motto for fantasy football. So as we go into the last part of the semifinals and the finals for fantasy, but hey, good luck to all of y'all. I hope y'all win y'all money because I'm definitely out of the running. I'm just watching. So, man, I didn't get all of the updates for what our score is. I mean, Adam's going to have to bring that to you next week. He's also going to have to send me his picks for this week because if he thinks he's getting out of picking for a whole week, he's got life terribly twisted. We're going to ride this thing all the way out to the end. You got to send me your picks. But for tonight, you're only getting mine. So we're going to run through week 16. We got a lot of games on the docket. I've covered some of them, and subsequently it looks like all the best games, well, most of the better games are early. Tomorrow night, 49ers-Titans. 49ers favored by 3. Just like I told you, I'm expecting another solid performance from Jimmy Garoppolo, a dominating performance from the San Francisco defense. I'm expecting the San Francisco 49ers to handle the Tennessee Titans rather easily. I mean, I don't really think Tennessee has anything to offer them because San Francisco is looking like one of those teams that could come out of the darkness and really make a push to get at least to the NFC Championship game this year. And they've got all the requisite pieces. The defense, the run game, the quarterback that doesn't make mistakes, the coach that seemingly has all the great play calls. You got Debo out there playing every position. I think sometimes he plays running back better than wide receiver. But you get the ball in that man's hands, he's running folks over. I mean, if you saw one of those plays against the Falcons last week, he caught the ball, lowered his shoulder, ran over A.J. Terrell, popped his mouthpiece, flew like 5 yards, and then he could barely get up. I'm like, Jesus Christ. How you let this man catch the ball, turn, and put his shoulder into you? You supposed to be laying the boom. He laid that man out. But, I mean, he's not a normal wide receiver. That dude is a monster. That's why they call him Debo. That ain't his damn name. But we call him Debo. I challenge you to know what his name is without Googling it. If you're not a South Carolina Gamecock fan, I guarantee you don't know what his actual name is because I don't. But I'm taking San Francisco. So, man, we move on to Christmas Day. We covered those, but definitely going to make sure you get all my picks in one line. We got the Cleveland Browns traveling to Green Bay to take on the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field. The Packers are favored by 7.5. I think this is a trap game for Green Bay. They're looking at Baker Mayfield like, okay, like he's not really that dude. They're not taking into account how good that defense is. Garrett is really pushing to get Defensive Player of the Year. I think with a 2 to 3 sack performance against Aaron Rodgers on Christmas Day will be major because everyone will see it. That will be a staple. That will also get him very close to the NFL record for sacks in a season. It'll take him back in the first place in the sack race over T.J. Watt. So I think this will be a big game for Cleveland, a statement game. I'm taking the Cleveland Browns in the upset over the Green Bay Packers. Then later on Sunday night, we've got the Indianapolis Colts traveling to Phoenix to play the Arizona Cardinals. Well, in Glendale anyway. I don't know if they consider them Phoenix or Glendale, Arizona. But the Cardinals are favored by 1 point. I think the way they're reeling, coming off of injuries, Kyler Murray, he plays, but he's always hurt. But he plays through his injury, and that's always the excuse. But the Arizona Cardinals always get worse near the end of the year. That is why I've been skeptical on them all season long. Like, I don't think they'll hold up and really be that good all the way through the NFL season, which they are not. This is what they do every year. They don't normally start off as good as they started this year, but they always start pretty decent, and then they fall off. And this is the time where they fall off. You got blown out by Detroit. You didn't get snuck. It wasn't like, oh, a fluke play. Detroit whooped your ass. Detroit is nowhere near as good as the Indianapolis Colts. I think the Colts will come into town and dial you up another L and shake up things in the AFC South. I'm taking the Indianapolis Colts to win the game, and obviously they'll cover because they're not favored. Now we move on to Sunday. Sunday matchups at 1 o'clock already starts off with the Buffalo Bills traveling to Foxborough to take on the Patriots. Patriots are favored by 2.5 points. Just like I told you, 25 to 30 miles an hour wind. That's what's predicted in the forecast for New England and Foxborough that day. If we have another wind game, it could possibly be another game where the Patriots just run the ball down Buffalo's throat, thoroughly embarrassing them and exposing a disgusting deficiency, which is the Buffalo run defense. So I got the Patriots. They'll win the game, and they'll cover the 2.5-point spread. Now we got the Detroit Lions coming right here to Atlanta to take on the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons are favored by 5.5 points. How? I have no earthly idea. This Detroit Lions team that just beat the Arizona Cardinals is coming into town. If Jared Goff has another game like he did against the Arizona Cardinals, I'm not understanding how the odds makers are seeing the Falcons stopping them to the tune of winning by 5.5 points. I mean, I don't know that I could take Detroit to win the game, but these are two teams that are reeling. I mean, Detroit knows that they're out. They're eliminated from the playoff race. The Falcons are all but eliminated. But they'll need a gargantuan effort, and it's crazy for me to have to say that they'll need a gargantuan effort to beat the Lions, because the Lions play with more fire than the Falcons do. They haven't been getting run out of these games. They've lost a lot of close games where they really played hard-nosed and tough football. I think the Detroit Lions will rally off that win over the Arizona Cardinals and go into Mercedes-Benz and upset the Atlanta Falcons. I'm taking the Detroit Lions. Now we got the Baltimore Ravens traveling to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. The Bengals are favored by 3. Now, if you remember, the Cincinnati Bengals beat the hell out of the Ravens in their previous matchup. I don't think they'll beat the Ravens the way they beat them last time, because, I mean, the Ravens are a very scrappy team. But what I can guarantee you is that the Ravens will have 3 or 4 horrible play calls and decisions, whether it be on 4th downs, goal lines, 2-point conversions, whatever the case may be. Harbaugh is proving that he will blow football games with his over-aggressiveness. John is just not it. I don't know what's going through his mind. He's playing these games like he's playing Madden with money on the line. Like, man, I got to go for the win now, otherwise I'm going to lose big. It's like, bro, you're trying to make the playoffs. You're trying to make sure that you win the division. You don't have time to lose games like that, especially tight games that you should have won. You blew a game to Pittsburgh. You blew a game to Green Bay. and you're going to get beat by the Cincinnati Bengals, and then the AFC North is going to be up in smoke. No one knows who will win that division. So we get all these teams locked and loaded. They all might have the same records. They've all beat each other. The tiebreaker formulas are going to be working overdrive for this division. We got the LA Rams traveling to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. And it's a 1 o'clock game. So we all know how that goes. At 1 o'clock, Minnesota, Kirk Cousins, he plays lights out. But Dalvin Cook has been killing. And ever since he's come back, the whole team has looked different. Justin Jefferson, he's doing his little dance all over the field. The Vikings offense is really something to be contended with. And what we've seen out of the LA Rams is when they come off of a big win, they then turn around and have a big loss. They're coming off a short week since they just played last night. They beat Seattle, which Seattle is not good this year, but for all intents and purposes, Seattle, that's a big win for the Rams because it's a division game, and it's a team that always does battle with them. So, I mean, it was still an emotional high. Now they have far less days to practice and prepare for this next game. I think they will go into Minnesota, and the Vikings will beat the Rams. I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings and the 3 points. Book that. Now we've got a game. Just a game. The Jags and the Jets. Does anyone really care to watch that? It's the number 1 pick against the number 2 pick. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, squaring off on the same field. 2 of the worst teams in football. Jacksonville couldn't even get it together against Houston. I mean, at least the Jets do actually show some signs of having a pulse. They do have a couple of decent wins under their resume. I'm going to have to take the New York Jets to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, they do at least have a coach. Their quarterback, I don't know that he's better than Lawrence. I mean, neither one of them look good. Lawrence is in a bad situation. Zach Wilson just wasn't that good in the first place, but the Jets are ultimately better than the Jags, and that's really not saying much, so I'm going to take the Jets in this game, and it's a pick 'em. So whoever you pick, you're good with your pick. We got the Giants traveling to Philly to take on the Eagles. The Eagles are favored by 9.5. I mean, I think that's a really, really big spread, especially for a division game. But, I mean, if you watch the New York Giants play in their last couple of games, what do you have to hang your hat on? Daniel Jones is out. Who the hell's playing quarterback for them? I mean, they're struggling. They're expecting Saquon to be something that he's not. He had a flash-in-the-pan rookie season. He's been hurt off and on. We've never seen even the flashes of what he showed us in his rookie campaign. I don't think that changes. Jalen Hurts has a big game. Rieger might actually show up, but even if he doesn't, I think the Philadelphia Eagles will win this game. I'm just not 100% sure about that spread. I mean, the Philly's not a big-time scorer. But if I had my arm twisted, I would take Philly and the points. Philly's got to win by 10 with a 9.5-point spread. Philly should win by at least 10. And I know we got one man in the chat who could appreciate that. No, the Philly fans think I hate them. Y'all are just not relevant to me. You beat us in one Super Bowl, we beat you in one. We're not worried about you. Then we got the Bucs traveling to Carolina and Bank of America Stadium to take on Cam Newton and the Panthers. The Bucs are favored by 10 points, coming off a 9-0 loss to the Saints. And I know some look at it like, oh, maybe the Bucs are unraveling. Like, this is the end. Brady doesn't have it anymore. Brady lost both regular season games to the Saints this year and last year. He is now a whole 1-4 against the Saints since he's been with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But that one win was in the playoffs, the biggest game that they played of any of the four. And anyone who's a Saints fan, player, or anything to do with the organization will tell you that they would give back those other 4 games to have that one, so they could have made it back to the NFC Championship game with a chance to go to the Super Bowl. But all of that being said, the Saints have Brady's number. I'm not even sure what it is. It's one of those unexplainable things. just like I tried to suggest to you before, the Saints are to Tom Brady what the Miami Dolphins used to be when he was in the AFC East. They have his number. He just can't beat them. I mean, it doesn't make sense. There's no rhyme or reason to it, and there's really nothing to take away from it. They know how to beat him. There are not many other teams in the league that can do that to him, and that's not going to carry over. The Tampa Bay Bucks will blow out Cam and the Panthers. It's going to be a bad game, and I'm going to leave alone what will happen on the other side because I like Cam, and I don't want to talk about him like that. So, man, now we got the Chargers and the Texans. What a bad game. The Chargers favored by 10 points. They'll go to Houston. They'll trash the Texans. They'll easily cover that spread. That's one of the games that you'll want to put on your parlay. We got the Chicago Bears traveling to Seattle. Seahawks are favored by 6.5. That's quite a spread for a team like Seattle. I mean, Seattle has been very inconsistent all season long. You've been getting a little bit of rust here. I mean, DK Metcalf has disappeared. Like the Seattle Seahawks look like they're just drawing at straws. Their defense is not good. Russ has been limited. People are blanketing his wide receivers. They're daring him to run. He doesn't like to run. He holds the ball too long, and that's why he's getting sacked at an alarming rate. And it looks like Chicago is actually the same football team. They play the same game. They leave Justin Fields out to dry. You're like, man, you going to run? You going to throw it? I mean, he ain't open, but launch it. Don't throw a pick, though, because then we're going to trash you. He just doesn't have the pedigree of Russell Wilson because he ain't got no Super Bowls. He doesn't have a national championship under his belt. He's a rookie. And they just hang him out to dry. But I think Justin Fields will have a really big game against Seattle because that defense isn't very good. At the end of the day, Russell Wilson will overtake him, but I think this will be a high-scoring duel. Like, I can see Seattle winning this game something to the tune of like a 37-34. It'll be a very high-scoring game. If you have either of those quarterbacks and on your fantasy team, you're going to want to play them. They're going to come through big for you, especially in the leagues just like ours, where you play each week in the playoffs for 2 weeks and you need an edge. Those are the guys that you want because their offenses are going to be on the field. They're going to be throwing. They're going to be running. They'll get you points both ways. That's what you want there, but I'm going to take Seattle on a nail-biter. And we got the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs. Chiefs are favored by 7.5. I mean, that's a lot of points, but you look at the last two games, the Chiefs have put up 82 points collectively in the past 2 weeks. I mean, that was against a very tough Chargers squad and a Raiders team that they own. So, I mean, I don't think the line is actually bad. The Pittsburgh Steelers don't offer anything that resembles offense. They want a knockout, drag-out game that was actually very boring against the Tennessee Titans, and I'm sure Jamila has been gloating to Wes ever since Sunday because they beat the Titans. So she deserved it. I haven't seen Wes say a whole lot today. Like, I guess he's eating his humble pie. It's all good. But I'm going to take the Chiefs to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they should cover the spread because the Steelers just can't score. Like, the spread is big, but it's big because they know your offense is bad. Big Ben is done, and he needs to retire. We got the Denver Broncos traveling to Las Vegas to play the Raiders. These are two very up-and-down, wishy-washy football teams. I mean, the Broncos just recently lost a tight game to Cincinnati. The Raiders pulled out a tight game against Cleveland. Either one of those games could have gone the other direction. This is a heated division rivalry. The Broncos and the Raiders have hated each other since the beginning of time. But I think since we got the Raiders playing at home in Allegiant, that team is just a little bit different when they play in their own stadium. It is a pick'em, so nobody's favored to win. I'm going to take the Raiders to win another very, very close nail-biter game. Now, for our last two games on the docket before I get out of here, we got the Washington football team traveling to Big D to play the Cowboys. The Cowboys are favored by 11. That must mean that Washington's players are still out. Just like they got smacked by Philly. If they don't have their full complement of players, they don't stand a chance to beat the Cowboys because they weren't really good enough to run with them with all their players. With no Taylor Heineke, with no Chase, none of these guys, it's going to be ugly. The Dallas Cowboys, they've been searching to get it together. I think the Cowboys win this game. And even though the spread is 11, I mean, that's an outlandishly high 11-point spread. I think the Cowboys do cover that spread. Last game on the docket, Monday Night Football. What an underwhelming matchup from Monday Night Football. We got the Miami Dolphins traveling to New Orleans to play the Saints in the Caesars Superdome. Not Mercedes-Benz any longer. The Benz is officially in Atlanta. But the Miami Dolphins have been on a roll. I mean, they've been very quiet, just cruising along, just barely squeaking by, winning games, but they're on like a low-key 6-game win streak. They're 7-7, back in the playoff hunt. They got a legit chance. You know, the Saints are favored by 3 in this game, and I think they're getting love because of the way they beat Tampa Bay, but no one's really taking into consideration that they beat Tampa Bay because they have their number, and that is not indicative of what they'll do against any other team. I mean, unless they think that Alvin Kamara is going to pull a Jonathan Taylor and win the game for him, which we have seen him do because he definitely beat the Jets by himself. That was an ugly game. But the Miami Dolphins have a much better defense. They're geared up for that type of game. Tua Tagovailoa, he's actually been balling. Like, nothing amazing, but he's been playing very good football. So, I mean, I think the Miami Dolphins will travel into New Orleans and take out the Saints. So that's what it's going to be. No, we are 2 minutes to the top of the hour, just under that. So I appreciate everybody for tuning in, hanging out with me. It's been a solo dolo Christmas Eve edition of Petty Sportz. We passed out gifts. We talked our trash. We kept it petty. We sipped on the Jameson. I didn't get any callers today, but it's all good. I had a whole lot of action going on in the chat line. But, man, we appreciate y'all tuning in every week. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Petty Sportz on YouTube, on Facebook. Make sure you get on all the podcasting platforms. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Simple Radio. Hit us on the Twitter page. Jump on the Instagram. We everywhere. Because, well, as we always tell you, it's not about where we are. It's about where you listen. Whatever medium you're on, we're on there. Check us out. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Go to the website. Get you some petty merch. Do your thing. Y'all make sure you tune back in next week. It's going to be the end of the year of review, Petty Sportz edition on the 29th, next Wednesday night. Me and Adam back on the panel. We appreciate y'all. And as always, keep it petty.
That's how